And welcome episode.
And I'm Ryan Mays.
Glad everybody can. Same client. A bio.
Yeah, I would call that a win.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty. So um, so we all that. And hey,
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see the different dynamics between the U.S. Senate, U.S. House, and governors. One of the coolest things, well, not coolest, but one of the most surprising things is Ron DeSantis' victory in Florida.
Yeah.
He won by a very narrow margin in the last election, and now he won by 20 points. Like, whoa. So,
big margin.
you know, that was a question we all had going into this election, was people fleeing from other states because they were unhappy with what was going on in their governments there, coming to these other states like Florida, like Texas. What was going to be the outcome of that? Were they going to bring their politics with them? Were they going to bring their voting their voting, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for, is decisions, I guess, to the state that they were moving into, and that does not seem to be the case. So you know, it. Everybody was saying red wave, red wave. It looks like a red wave hit.
It did.
Yeah, so I mean, just looking here at the maps, it looks like right now, as of 8:06 p.m., the GOP is ahead in the Senate race by 48 to 46. In the House race, the GOP is up 207 to 184. In the governor's races, the GOP is up 24 to 22. And so, yeah, I mean, it's looking kind of like a win across the board for the GOP. We will see how it turns out, obviously. But the other interesting fact is Georgia right now is going to have a runoff election. Or they're going to have to do a re-election. So that's going to be interesting to keep our eyes on that. Another really interesting fact is in Arizona, the governor race. All the polls had Kari Lake up big time. And in the governor race in Arizona, Kari Lake is actually currently behind 911,844 votes for Katie Hobbs to the 908,157 votes for Kari Lake. So it's a very, very, very tight race out there in Arizona. It's going to be very interesting to watch what ends up shaking out there. And as of right now, the state has not been called. The race has not been called. And by the margin, there's about an 8,000 vote margin.
Wow.
So it's very, very tight. The percentages are 50.2% of the vote to Katie Hobbs and 49.8% of the vote going to Kari Lake. So, yeah, very interesting race in Arizona. Very interesting race overall in the entire country. It does look and it does appear that people are voting GOP this time around. So we'll see how that shakes out. Another interesting situation that I saw
Right.
was in Pennsylvania. You have hold on, let me pull that up here real quick.
Well, just let me. I'm just throw in here. So it's pretty interesting to see it right now. Reuters actually just ended their live map coverage a little bit ago, and it looks like we are at 48-48 with the Senate, 188 you said with the Democrats, and 208 for the Republicans.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's where we're at so far.
That's where we're at so far. It's crazy. And what was it that we were just talking about before this episode started? There's going to be some one state that's not going to get their counts until next week.
Yeah.
Nevada, that's right. So Nevada's not even going to get their counts till next week because I guess they're counting by hand, which is really interesting also.
That's very interesting. I mean, that's with all the rumors and all the allegations of election fraud coming out of the 2020 election, counting everything by hand is one way to ensure accuracy. I mean, it really is. If you're of the belief that you don't trust those voting machines, you don't trust the system that they're on,
right?
Counting by hand really eliminates that. So very interesting to see what's going to go down in Nevada out there as well. Another interesting thing is in Pennsylvania, John Fetterman was taking on Dr. Oz, as we know him, the celebrity.
Yep.
Which is crazy that John Fetterman actually won.
Yeah, let's talk about this one real quick.
To unpack that a little bit, polls actually had Dr. Oz pulling ahead by a pretty substantial margin. I think it was like 5 or 6%.
I'm pretty sure it was
after the debate, and then in the debate, Fetterman did not prepare. Not prepare, but he did not show very well.
Well, and he just had a stroke.
Just had a stroke 6 months ago, and it was very clear that he was unable to take the thoughts that were in his head and form sentences with those. And so, a lot of people lost a lot of trust, according to the polls, in Fetterman because of that. And here he comes out and pulls out a victory.
No joke.
Interesting fact here, though. If you actually zoom in on Pennsylvania, the entire state is red except for Erie, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia.
Yep.
The rest of the state is red. So it just goes to show you the power of the cities.
Yeah, and how they can affect a lot.
They can affect things.
Or look at Georgia.
Yeah.
And you look at Georgia and you look at Atlanta, that's like the biggest portion that is Democrat side.
Oh yeah. And that's actually something that's kind of crazy if you pull it out to the US House, where you get, because there was more House of Representative on ballots this time around than there was anything else, really.
Right.
If you pull that out, basically the entire country is red except for your major cities.
Yeah.
And so the major cities are still dictating a lot of what's going on. So for those people out there arguing that the Electoral College doesn't work and the Electoral College should be abolished, I would pose the question to you. If the Electoral College is abolished, then you're going to have 5 major cities call each and every election.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
LA,
San
Francisco, New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Those 5 cities would determine the swing of every election.
Well, and that's for anybody.
And Atlanta. Throw Atlanta in there,
Throw Atlanta in there. And that's for anybody who doesn't truly understand, why the Electoral College is important, right? The Electoral College is important because you want to make sure you have fair representation across the entire U.S., right? Whereas it's not just going to be the major populous cities, and that's the idea that they came up with. Our founding fathers way more intelligent than we've ever been in our lives. I would argue.
The foresight on those guys.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, granted, were they perfect? No, but I mean, they were working with an imperfect system, so they did what they could best.
Imperfect time.
And an imperfect, exactly, and they did what they could best.
AKA. All history.
Yeah, I mean, just look at
it's
history.
all imperfect. Humans are imperfect.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I mean that they worked with what they had.
Yeah, exactly. So they were great.
And the fact that they had like I said, the foresight to foresee these cities growing the way that they are.
Yep.
And then perhaps because I mean when the United States was established, there was 13 colonies.
Yep.
That then became the first states, and they foresaw the country growing into a place where, there could be a lot of rural areas that would be unrepresented in these elections based upon populace, like the populist vote. So they put in a system to try to even and equal the plane.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I mean it's absolutely wild, like you said, the foresight on these gentlemen and women that founded our country. But let's go back real quick. Let's talk about. I just want to touch up on this, and we'll move on to the next article. But I want to touch up on especially the Senate. The Senate was interesting. So right now, I believe they are. It's looking like Alaska and Nevada are potentially going to be Republican, and then if I'm not mistaken, New Mexico.
New Mexico didn't have an election for the Senate this time around. Arizona,
thank you. Yeah, Arizona. It looks like they're possibly going to be Democratic, or Democrats. So the question comes down to: is it going to be gridlocked at 49-49 with the 2 independent seats there, or is it going to become a majority?
Yeah.
Right. So somebody still has a chance to take the majority.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on, and especially since we won't know Nevada's results for another week now.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. And then what was the state? Also, I think it was Nevada that ran out of paper. For the voting.
If they're counting my hand, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Now, and then last thing I guess we can touch up on here. Has anybody heard anything about voter fraud yet? Has anything come out about
Not
unfair
yet.
this, that?
I haven't heard anything yet.
Okay, so
But I'm sure it'll start flying here in the next couple days.
We'll keep an eye out on that, of course, and make sure that
I'm sure
we
it'll
talk
be coming
about
from
that.
both sides.
Oh, I'm sure. You know how it is, but
You know what's interesting is here in Georgia, right? The Senate race was between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock, Raphael Warnock.
It's Walker's looking to possibly lose that, right? It's like neck and neck, I thought.
It's going to a runoff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the vote count right now is 1,941,499 to Raphael Warnock and 1,906,246
Wow.
to Herschel Walker. So that is tight.
Yeah, that's very
That's almost
tight.
as tight as the Florida race in the 2000 election.
Right.
Obviously, that was decided by 500 votes.
Wow. I know, right? And people say their votes don't matter.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's I'm glad you said that, Nate, because that's where I was getting ready to bring it back to. Like, get out there and vote, people. Get out there and vote.
Get your
votes
sticker.
do count. Get that sticker. Post it on Facebook. Post it on Instagram. Show the world that you have done your civic duty for our country.
That's right. No, I love it because that is, like you said, very, very tight race. So I'm glad we got to talk about that, and like I said, we're gonna keep up with this as we go on through like our next couple podcast episodes because of course we are going to just make sure we keep updating. We want to make sure we're on top of it, and by next week we should know exactly what happens in the Senate. So we'll see what happens. We have some comments. Ooh, beautiful. Let's hear those. I am not pulled up under the video quite yet, so give me about 2 seconds.
Wow, we've got a ton.
No way Fetterman won. It's definitely interesting because, like I said, Fetterman just got done having a stroke, and then the gentleman somehow is able to win the election, and it's like when you have that kind of big medical issue, how are you going to be able to recover from that? But and here's what I wonder, right? Because there's a lot of people that. We'll talk about like Trump, right? People argued all day long that Trump won. Okay, well, ultimately he didn't. And then there's going to be a lot of arguments for fraud. Well, maybe it's just that people didn't like him that much. They didn't care what was on the other side, right? So in Fetterman's case, it could be the same thing. It might not necessarily be fraud. It could just be that people truly don't like what's on the other side of the aisle, so they feel like they have no choice. Because I talk to people all the time, and they're like, "Oh, I vote for the lesser of two evils," and I look at them and say, "Why vote for evil?" Right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and now, granted, it's because I know the independent won't win, the third party won't win, the write-in won't win, so we got to go for this one. Well, you get enough people together, it will.
Yeah,
I mean, it's as simple as that. But again, that's common sense. So I hear what you're saying. And could it potentially come out as something where it's fraudulent? We'll keep an eye on that, of course. But as of right now, it looks like Featherman won. Arizona's predicted to go red. So we'll see what happens.
And
there.
then we got Old Faithful, Mr. Roadcap on here.
Mr. Roadie.
Trump called for rallies in protest of voter fraud. Where did he actually call for those rallies? Do you know? I'd love to hear about that. And then Wendy commented and said, Mike Lindell captures fraud live. Check it out on frankspeech.com. So if you're interested in that, definitely check that link out. That's in the comments there.
Yep.
Matt Boyers. No
Oh, man.
fraud. Terrible candidate choice by Republicans and everywhere outside of Florida.
Outside of Florida, yeah, because
Interesting.
I know Matt's a big DeSantis fan as well.
And then, go ahead, Nate. We'll get the next couple.
All right, so Wendy came in and said, well, captured. She meant to fix her word there. And then he's as incompetent as Biden, stroke or not. Fair enough. Project Veritas has video of criminal activity at polls. So I don't know too much about Project Veritas. I don't know.
Project Veritas has been doing a lot of good work here lately.
Have they?
They've exposed a lot of not just election stuff, but also they've exposed the DOJ. They've exposed the FBI. They've exposed CNN, Twitter.
Who are they backed by?
What is his name? It's
Is it somebody with big old deep pockets?
yeah, James O'Keefe.
James O'Keefe.
And basically, their entire organization is built on undercover reporting.
Right.
So what they do is they get like into a situation where they're a one-on-one conversation with an executive at a company or executive within the FBI or whoever their target is.
Right.
And then they have a conversation in which they ask questions and those people answer the questions with the information that we're all actually interested in.
Right.
So if you haven't done any research into Project Veritas, I would highly encourage you to go do that.
I am one of those individuals.
Because now this isn't conspiracy stuff. This is actual hard
Evidence.
Hard evidence. People being recorded saying things that we've all thought maybe, as conspiracy theorists, put on your tin hat, but
Right.
yeah, that's been something that has been exposed by Project Veritas. So yeah, I would definitely tell people to go and check it out. I have no knowledge on what Wendy's talking about here at the videos that show criminal activity.
Right.
However, if Project Veritas is putting their name on it, then I feel comfortable.
It could be pretty
with
comfortable.
calling
Okay.
it out.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that, Wendy. That's something I'll definitely have to look into myself. But I do appreciate obviously the comments and coming in and talking. All we do here is try to ask for discourse and try to make sure that we have the best information we can feed out to everyone with the most factual information we can absolutely get to. So
Absolutely. We ask
and
for
she says they
discourse
have
and
a
factual
Telegram
information.
channel. I'll have to look into that. Also on Truth Social. Social. All right. Cecilia. She meant social.
We got you, Wendy.
All right, cool. Well, let's jump on to the next article here. I want to make sure we get to touch up on everything. We went about 20 minutes. We only have, I think, 4 articles to really touch up on, so we'll go about 10 each.
Perfect.
But this is great. So, first article comes from Forbes. Not a red wave, but a ripple. Biggest surprises from election night. Tuesday night delivered mixed results for both parties, but overall, National Democrats are feeling victorious as they are able to stave off a number of fierce Republican challengers that could have tipped House control much farther to the right. So some key facts. Democrats flipped at least 3 House seats rated toss-ups by Cook Political Report in Ohio, Texas, and North Carolina, and 1 Senate seat in Pennsylvania as of Wednesday morning, with multiple results pending. Republicans, meanwhile, have flipped at least 3 toss-up House seats, 2 in New York and 1 in Virginia. North Carolina State Senator Wiley Nickel beat Republican Bo Hines by 2 points in a toss-up race on the 13th Congressional District, flipping the seat held by Republican Ted Budd, who won his Senate election on Tuesday. Greg Landsman, Democrat, ended Ohio Rep. Steve Chabot's Republican, 26 years in Congress, on Tuesday, defeating the incumbent by 5 points in the race for Ohio's first congressional district in Cincinnati, which was slightly redrawn in redistricting to favor Democrats. Democrats won a second toss-up district in Ohio, albeit this one held by a Democrat Republican Tim Ryan with Amelia Sykes. 6-point victory over Trump-aligned Republican candidate Madison Jacinto Gilbert. Texans turned to the 34th Congressional District to blue on Tuesday, electing Vincent Gonzalez over Representative Myra Flores, who flipped the district in a special election in June, but was forced to run in the midterm under new lines that included more Democratic voters. Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman flipped the state seat held by retiring Republican Senator Pat Toomey, who he beat Republicans Mehmet Oz. Mehmet? How do you say his first name?
I think Mehmet.
Mehmet Oz on Tuesday by
Dr.
3
Oz.
points.
That's the easy.
Dr.
way.
Oz, yeah.
Yeah, it's Dr. Oz, the TV guy.
First name.
I didn't. Yeah, I mean, I was just
thought it
him
was
as
Dr. Oz.
I
I definitely thought he was the wizard behind the curtain.
Yeah, right.
In the movie, but maybe I was wrong.
In terms of Democratic upsets, Florida is no longer a swing state with Governor Ron DeSantis securing a decisive victory over former Governor Charlie Crist, 59-40, and becoming the first Republican gubernatorial candidate to win Miami-Dade County since 2002. Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee Chair Sean Patrick Maloney conceded to Republican Mike Lawler Wednesday morning. Republican George Santos has flipped the Long Island seat vacated by Representative Tom Suozzi on Tuesday by beating Democrat Robert Zimmerman. Republican J.D. Vance beat longtime Representative Tim Ryan in this toss-up race to fill the retiring Senator Rob Portman's Ohio Senate seat. Virginia Representative Elaine Luria lost to the district she flipped in 2018 to Republican Jen Kiggins on Tuesday after it was redrawn and redistricting, including more Republican votes. That's interesting. And it ended up Virginia Representative. Oh, no. Okay. Gotcha. So, yeah, so there's that. So those are just kind of the key highlights. It wasn't necessarily a red wave. I mean, it was more of like the article said, like a ripple effect. There was a little bit of everything there, right? Like some Democrats won that we wouldn't expect, some Republicans won that we were like, yeah, that makes sense, or didn't expect also. But so seeing these seats flip in the Senate and in the House, so again, it just comes back to my question. Are we voting for people that we truly feel are going to create change, or are we voting for people simply because we can't stand who's on the other side of the aisle, right? And that is the most frustrating thing about our elections and where we're at. Again,
I agree.
Fetterman, like we talked about this morning, when we were playing a little bit of ball, we were talking about how, hey, we got to stop the what was the word you used?
Tribalism.
Yeah, the tribalism. I mean, just because somebody's Democrat or just because somebody's Republican, we're simply voting for that person, and it's not how we should do it by any means.
No, not by any means.
But unfortunately,
you should vote for who you believe in, and
Yeah.
that means doing your research, finding out what they're running on, looking at their platform, looking at who their donors are. That's
Yep.
another big one.
big one.
Because their donors are going to dictate what kind of policy they make once they get in the seat. And if you don't believe that, I would encourage you to go and look at Twitter right now.
Yeah.
Elon Musk taking over Twitter. A lot of media buyers, a lot of advertising firms and everything are pulling their funding from Twitter right
Yep.
now, and trying to get Elon to conform to what they want him to do.
Yep.
So
What's
if you
gonna be
don't
on there?
believe that money influences decisions that people make once they get into that seat of power, then I'm sorry, but you're naive.
Why we need to get rid of lobbying?
Yeah,
To an extent.
Manuel has actually come on here and educated us a little bit about
Right,
about
what it can
lobbying
do and how it can be
a good thing and things like that. But maybe limiting some of the amount of money that can be donated to some of these super PACs and things like that.
Speaking of Manuel.
Is he on?
Yeah, Manuel, what's
Manuel!
happening? To be fair, a lot of people split their vote depending on what office they were voting for. That's something that doesn't happen often, and people should be given credit for that. And I
Very
agree.
true.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah.
But yeah, the tribalism does need to stop. I mean, I think that, that is something that all of us kind of fall into every once in a while.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
It's just got to be something where we have to do our research. There is no excuse for not knowing everything about a candidate.
Right.
The internet is a real thing.
It's
Google, as much as we have a
huge.
love-hate relationship with it, it's the all-knowing Google.
Mm-hmm.
Go and Google the person. And if you don't trust Google, then get on DuckDuckGo.
That's what I use.
Hey, I do
VPN.
too. I mean, I use both.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I use the other one for like if I'm trying to go somewhere locally and like look at that
also,
kind of stuff.
if you're looking at like advertising streams and
Hey,
stuff like
yeah,
that,
good point,
Google's
good
great
point.
for that kind of stuff. So, another thing is YouTube. If you get on YouTube and you type in a
plethora
candidate's
of
name,
information.
I promise you will find videos about that candidate. And you can find right sources, you can find left sources, you can
central.
find libertarian sources,
Yeah.
Green Party sources. You'll find whatever it is that you're looking for. And then when you find what you're looking for, go look for what you're not looking for.
Hey, exactly.
because that's when you're going to be able to start forming educated opinions.
I agree. No, yeah, that's awesome. And then I love how Manuel came in with that comment also. The one thing that I will say though that is so frustrating is like obviously all three of us went to vote, and I'd assume anybody who chimed in today on the podcast or tonight on tonight's episode, you have also voted, right? So with that being said, I know we've all gone to the ballots and we see Republican, and Democrat like sample ballots.
Oh,
and
sample ballots. Those are so funny.
You want to vote for this one? You just put these
if
in. You want to vote
Democrat? Vote this way.
Like,
And then the other guy's like, hey, if you want to be a Republican, vote this way.
I'm sorry.
And then you're like, what if I don't want to do either?
Those need to be banned.
Right.
Like I'm sorry, but those need to be banned, dude, because there is no reason that anybody, like you just said, there's a plethora of information on the internet.
Oh, my gosh.
Figure out your candidates. And, like, even, something I saw really cool this year, I know a lot of people hate on the NFL and all that because of how they've gotten involved in politics, but one of the things they did is they actually had a website where you could go look up everybody who was running in your state, which was awesome because it gave you that information. It's giving you the information to make those decisions. They weren't saying vote a specific way. All they said was go out and vote. Here's a website. You can look up the candidates that are going to be on your ballots. Please make sure you go, do it from there. So, very interesting to see how the NFL made that move, because I know they've gotten involved politically here in the past couple of years, and it's just come back to bite them in the ass. They've had like record low views and all sorts of stuff. Same with like the NBA and everything else, but that's besides the point. Cool. So, love talking about that. Love talking about just how the flip up, wasn't, and part of what the title is tonight, red wave, blue wave, no wave, right? It was a mix between everything. So
it's
it
like
was
you throw two rocks into a pond and watch the waves hit each other.
Exactly. Ripple effect. So Dean comes in just real quick and says, Ryan, I believe Trump called for his followers to protest voter on Truth Media last night.
I was just talking about Dean being Old Faithful.
Old Faithful?
I was like,
yeah.
Old Faithful.
Old Faithful. Here's a Yahoo
she
link.
Blows.
He's going to pull up a Yahoo link that he can
Appreciate
find.
you, Dean. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Keeping us in the loop.
All right, looks like we got about a minute left on this topic. So
you want to wrap up anything on there? Or are you ready to rock?
No, man. I think I hit on the points that were there before. Just do your research when it comes to any election. I don't care if it's presidential. I don't care if it's your local. I don't care if it's Senate, House of Representatives.
Whatever.
Do your research and then vote based on an educated opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. So yeah, look out for look for where you want to vote there, and just make sure, like we always say, vote your conscience. Make sure you're doing the right thing. So pulling up the next article, we're moving into Arizona vote count continues after election day stumbles. So in Arizona, election day didn't go smoothly as many hoped, and some races still hang in the balance. Problems with some voting machines resulting in misleading claims from some Republican politicians about election security and integrity. In the weeks leading up to the election, Arizona faced problems with voter intimidation, including armed individuals, which we covered last week, at the ballot box drop boxes. Election workers also found themselves on the receiving end of threats and harassment. I don't know why anybody would go to that length. Like, leave them alone.
There is no reason you should be at an election site with a gun.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'm all for Second Amendment. Carry until you're blue in the face,
right,
or red in the face, whichever way you want to vote. I'm not not discriminating here.
Love it.
But you should not be at a site where votes happen with a gun. It just looks bad.
I agree.
The visual on that is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, all you're doing is giving the people that you're trying to get other people to vote for a bad name.
Exactly, and it's affecting you more than anything. So,
yeah.
I mean, I agree. Like, if you want to carry, by all means, just like conceal carry. Don't have to be out there open carrying, making it. And even if you want to watch over the ballots and just look and be like, hey, I'm just standing here making sure everything's going all right. Sure, fine. You have the right to assemble. You have the right to your Second Amendment, of course, which is your firearm. But just there's no point in being so public and in your people's face about it, because it is intimidating. Like, if I see a guy standing there with an AR-15 as I'm going up to, and not saying that this happened, but I'm just putting as pure theoretical, or even just a pistol. Let's just do a pistol. If I saw a guy just standing there with a pistol in his hand or on his hip, just watching everything, I mean, I don't know. Something about that kind of reminds me of like, just, I don't know. It just doesn't settle well with me. Yeah, worst times. To the point where we can't even be civil enough to understand that there's a voting process and
everybody's
how it goes.
entitled to their vote.
Exactly. So, and let
Like,
people
and I
make
know
those
that
decisions.
they're there to try to stop voter fraud. But
Right.
like, what do you think carrying a gun on your hip is going to do about the Dominion voting machine or the Unisys voting machine? What are you going to shoot it? Like,
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, and so, like Manuel says, if you want to be involved, get involved. Polling places always need volunteers. It's an unpaid all-day gig, I believe, but you're going to be out there anyways.
Exactly.
Bingo.
Exactly. So just get
Unpaid.
involved. Be there. Help out. Like,
You can help be a solution to society instead of somebody who's
trying to be threatening, right?
Bingo.
Like,
It's as simple as that.
and even then, like, if you really,
No, let's just leave it at that. That's perfect. So, five early takeaways from the midterms. The Republican National Committee, along with the candidates including Lake and Senate candidate Blake Masters, filed a lawsuit requesting extending voting hours in the county. A judge denied the request, stating voters would be able to vote. Arizona expects to have all votes counted by Friday, which is 2 days from now. Arizona law allows early voting ballots to be tabulated ahead of the election. However, early ballots received on election day must be verified and counted, which can take several days. Election officials are also required to give voters 5 days to verify early ballots and errors like mismatch or missing signatures. And then 10 candidates who made history Tuesday night.
Hold on. Dean just hit us with some fire.
okay.
He said, "You never know; those voting machines might get a little rowdy."
I love that. You got to make sure you
Get a
put
little
them in,
squirrely on us
put
here
them
now,
in check,
Dean.
So the 10 candidates who made history Tuesday night, Democrat Katie Hobbs is leading the race for governor. Lake said in a speech she's committed to sticking things out as long as it takes for voters to be counted. Votes to be counted, and she still expects to win. Previously, when asked if she accepted the results of the election, Lake said she will win and accept the results. Arizona's Senate race between Masters and incumbent Democrat Mark Kelly remains too close to call. The race could be won to determine who controls the Senate. And I think that was it, actually.
Wild.
Yeah, it didn't give me... Okay, yeah, so anyways.
We still have about
Didn't
5
give me
minutes
10.
on this one.
Yeah, so Arizona... vote count continues after election day stumble. So, we were talking about this a little bit.
How do we have outdated equipment on one of the most important things in our world?
Because we choose to.
Interesting, right?
That's the only excuse.
Like, yeah,
That's the only excuse. Can you think of a better excuse?
I can't. I mean, if this is like the highlight of everything, if this is the one thing that people focus, like everybody's eyes are on this, right?
Yeah.
Or a lot. And if that's
Half
the
the
case,
country, at
we should
least.
make sure, at least half the country, we should make sure we have proper equipment. We should make
Absolutely.
sure that everything is set up, everything's going to get, I understand things go awry, thank you. And situations happen. But to me, this is something so important, you should double, triple, quadruple check before everything goes live. So it's a bit like concerning that we don't have the proper equipment in the first place, or like Nevada running out of paper. I mean, be prepared. Be prepared.
Come on.
Man.
It's like Scar said, be prepared. Yeah, we'll be prepared.
Oh wow.
So, but I mean, you hit on all the points. I mean, you make great arguments right there. And the thing about it is, if you look at this and you're unpacking what this is, first and foremost, you can't have anything that has a backdoor.
Right.
There are too many hackers out there nowadays that know anything and everything about getting in and out of systems. It has to be a closed system.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be digital, if it's going to be it can't be plugged into a wall. I mean, it needs to almost be battery operated. Let's be real. But there has to be firewalls in place on those voting machines that do not allow hacking. And you can't tell me that we don't have people out here, white hat hackers for the government, that can't put those things in place.
Oh, I know they can.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can make something almost impenetrable to get into as far as like hacking wise, if you just have the right people working on it.
Right.
So you have to have updated systems. You have to have the proper responses in place to secure the election results. Because if those aren't, then you have 2020. Like, it just is
That big old mess.
It was a mess. It was a mess. And think about how many people were outraged on the right and the left based on what happened in the 2020 election.
Right.
It's insane. People get so fired up about politics, and here you are just like all willy-nilly, like, oh, our election machines are cool. Like, come on, man.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
I know. Look, that's like, it's perfectly summed up. Again, this is one of the biggest nights, and the other thing is, it's you got to remember we're getting to a point where political polarization is at an all-time high.
All-time high.
Like, and we are
Outside of like maybe the Civil War.
Yeah, seriously. So like, that's the scary part. We are at each other's throats. We have to make sure that we have to make sure that everything is covered on every end, right? Like, we have to make sure our voting equipment is proper. We have to make sure that, everything is done properly. I just don't understand how we could have outdated equipment or things going wrong. And then you had like the Dominion issue back in the 2020 election. We got to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen. So Manuel comes in and says, I mean, in today's environment, it's easy to say update your equipment, but people are skeptical of changes. Fair enough. As Ryan was alluding to, it's also up to each state how they're going to be doing that. It's going to be different in each state. Now, personally, I mean, if you ask me, I like Nevada. I like the hand
paper
count.
ballots is a great idea.
I like the paper ballots. I like that because, again, when it comes to voting machines, and again, this is just, machines in general, they are programmed.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, get your 10 hats on.
Yeah, well, hold on. I'm not getting into tin hat conspiracies. I'm just saying they are programmed, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody could make a mistake in the program. It could be completely accidental, whatever. But the point is, there's nothing like good old paper and pencil and people counting, like manpower.
Unless, of course, you have Chads.
Unless you have...
And that hanging Chad was a big deal for a little while.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, just depends on...
That's a 2000 reference for you young bucks out there.
You young bucks. Oh, but yeah. So I'm all for just going back to in person. Having manpower counted up. Supervisors. It's all taken care of. Multiple checks and balances. My opinion, but that's besides the point. So wrapping up on this. I do. I'm so lost here. Oh my gosh. Go ahead.
We've only got 30 seconds left on this one, so
yeah.
I think the bottom line that we're trying to get to here is that we just need to make sure that our elections are secure.
Yes.
And I think we're taking steps in the right direction on that.
Yeah, and I just, whatever we have to do to make sure the equipment is properly updated and we're not having these kind of issues after Election Day, let's get to that point because we're in 2022. So, all right, moving forward. Let's talk about the results in Nevada Senate race, how it's delayed by the paper ballot. So we're going over that now. So Nevada's midterm election results have been delayed according to the local election officials, leaving the state's high-stakes Senate race outcome in the balance as of early Wednesday.
High-stakes Senate race.
Two counties where the vast majority of Nevada voters reside aren't expected to start counting some mail-in ballots until Wednesday, the Nevada Independent reported. In Clark County, a shortage of election workers was causing the delay. Fair enough. I can understand that. Like Manny just said, we need more election workers.
Especially if we go back to paper ballots.
Yeah, well, especially if we do that. And like I said, that's why you could check out last week's episode for our thoughts on that.
Check it out.
Well, Washoe County received large volumes of mail and drop-off ballots per the Independent. Nevada state law also allows mail-in ballots to arrive days after Election Day, so long as they are postmarked by November 8th.
Now, see, that's something I don't necessarily agree with.
We're going to come back to that.
Yeah.
Nevada's race is one of the 4 key Senate battlegrounds that remained uncalled early Wednesday. Georgia, Wisconsin, and Arizona are also unresolved. What they're saying. So Clark is not counting drop boxes tonight, but to be clear, we said all along that we would only have some of the results on election night.
My question is, are they going to count the boxes that are under the tables with the cloth over it after a pipe bursts? Is that going to still be allowed, or?
Yes.
Manuel, can we get a short answer on this?
By law, Nevada counties have until November 12th to receive mail ballots. We'll go over that. I absolutely 100% do not believe we will know the results of the election tonight. Yes. We're all used to elections where it's as simple as plugging in a USB stick and running the results. A spokesman for Washoe County told the Reno
Journal. We can't do that now because there are so many paper ballots. It's going to take longer. This is the new normal for election night. Okay. Anyways, let's
Also,
go back
Dean
to
just
this.
came in with a comment. It says, "Are there options to choose a paper ballot instead of using a voting machine? I'm pretty sure I remember having the option a few years ago, but did not pay attention yesterday." You know, Dean, that's actually a good.
That is a good
call out.
question.
I didn't see anything about that yesterday when I
I didn't
voted
either.
but I
They-
wasn't also paying attention to that.
If
so.
there was that option, you think they'd want to keep you informed. Hey, either do paper or electronic, your choice, right? You think
They'd want to, but of
I mean,
course.
yesterday when I voted, it was a paper ballot, but we fed it into a machine.
a machine, same
Yeah.
here. And it was so quick and easy for us. I mean, I literally was in there and out 2
You
minutes.
know what was really cool? I took my daughter with me yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah, I was
Oh,
like,
that's awesome.
hey, you know, you're gonna learn what one of the most important duties of as being a citizen that you have.
That's awesome.
And there's a lot of people, and I even explained this to her. I was like, there's a lot of people all over the world that come to our country and are not able to do this, and they fight. Boom goes the dynamite.
Boom goes the dynamite.
But there's a lot of people in the world that come to our country, don't have the right to do this, and fight for years to get the right to do this, to become a citizen, to be able to vote. So it was really cool taking my 7-year-old daughter with me to the voting site yesterday and just showing her how it all works and just explaining to her why it's an important thing for her to do. She was like, "Well, why don't I get a paper?" I was like, "Well, you gotta be 18, girl."
You don't understand quite yet there.
But she did get a little future voter sticker.
The sticker.
I got a picture of us. I'm actually gonna post that on my Facebook
That
here
is
in a little bit
adorable, dude.
after the episode. So be sure to come over and check me out, Ryan Mays.
Yeah, and talk about an amazing father award. Jeez.
I do what I can.
No, that's awesome. Seriously, I love that, and I think more parents should be involved like that and be
Heck yeah.
bringing their children to it. Just like, hey, this is what we do. This is why we do it. This is why it's important. When you hit this age, I want you to do it too. It's your duty.
Yeah,
So,
and
I like
I also
that.
explained to her. I was like, "Listen,
Not everybody gets it.
we're you and I might not even agree on who we're going to vote for, but that is our right as Americans that was given to us by the founding fathers,
That's right.
that we can agree to disagree and vote for who we want to be in the position of power."
Yep. I
So
agree.
It was really cool.
Yeah, and so like kind of bringing it back, let's talk about Nevada, the paper ballot situation. So I'm sorry, we were talking a little bit on this article about how they still had until November 12th to receive those by law, Nevada counties have until November 12th to receive mail ballots. Okay. Bull. I am calling
November 12th?
Yeah, that is okay.
Bro.
You have how long, right? Even close to the end of October, we were able to start early voting, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was,
I think so.
like the last week of
I think
October.
So you have all that time to get your mail-in ballot by Tuesday the 8th, and you're telling me that we're giving people that much leeway.
I mean, I completely understand that some people are going to be late for their funeral, but like, if you're going to be late, then we need to set the cutoff date earlier. Set it a week ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
because then that allows the U.S. Postal Service to do their job, which that's a whole different topic for a whole different day.
we do got to talk about the U.S. Postal Service.
But it does allow the time for the mail-ins to get in.
Right.
And if you need to, maybe make it like the day after.
Right.
But after that, no, I don't
I'm
think
sorry.
you should count
Yeah,
it.
get rid of it.
If
But-
it's not in, it's like that episode of The Simpsons. Do you remember that?
Yep.
When Homer it was a tax situation actually. Homer was trying to get his taxes in, and like they were shutting down the building, and he like runs up, and there's like a bar situation, and he like gets his hand through and throws the envelope, and it lands on the top. Like, hey, dude, I completely understand.
Right.
But there needs to be a cutoff.
There
and
does.
That cutoff needs to be early enough to allow the Postal Service
And if your
to do its
vote
job.
didn't get counted, then you should have done it a little earlier. This is your
Or
biggest.
go on election day if you have the ability.
If you have the ability, again, I will argue there.
If you have the ability, you should be up and voting on election day.
I still think every single company, every single thing in this world should shut down for one day. Like, I
Truly believe. I mean,
I'm talking production facilities. I'm talking, obviously,
anybody who's ran by a corporation should be able to shut down for a day. Whether you're talking about stores, grocery stores, everything. Seriously.
I mean, we get
It's
off for
one
Labor Day.
day. Yeah.
We get off. Why is an election day a national holiday?
It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't make sense at all, actually. It should be a national holiday that is recognized by all corporations that hey, your employees are not going to be there that day.
Yeah, seriously, they have a civic duty, and we want them to do it. And let them get the day off to keep up with the news. Let them get a day off to. I 100% think it should be a holiday. There should be a deadline. Dean comes in. There should be a deadline of postmarked ballots before November 7th, so there are no late ballots that show up after November 7th. If I send a check, this is a good point. If I send a check by mail and pay a bill and it shows up a week late, guess what? It's late.
True.
And that
yeah,
is.
how would we enforce that? I mean, it just wouldn't count.
It just wouldn't count. You just
Or
throw
we
it
can
away.
start penalizing people. Tax revenue. I hate taxes. Never mind. Never mind. Scratch that idea.
Taxes are
Uncle Sam gets enough of my money.
Yeah. No, but 100%. I agree with this. Right, there has to be a cutoff. If you don't get it in time, it doesn't count. Sorry, tough luck. So
You win some, you lose some.
yeah, exactly. But wrapping up thoughts. Anything, Stuart, Ryan?
I think we beat that drum.
Did it pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. And with 2 minutes to spare, even, so we're making good progress here, Nave.
Yeah, we're keeping it nice and tight.
Time clock thing is keeping us organized, bro. We haven't gone on a tangent yet, have we? Still, check that out. No ranting JRE style for us tonight, boys.
One day. One day.
One day,
Oh man. All right. Cool. Well,
in a world far, far away. Next subject.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know where you're going with that. It was like
Star
a mixture.
Wars?
That sounded like a mixture between
Was
Superman
pretty
and
bad.
Star Wars. Man. That was bad.
So bad.
You might be able to throw Spider-Man in there. Come on, bro.
Love all them.
DCU. Oh, speaking of DCU, go see Black Adam. It was dope.
Oh, well, I have to go out there and do that. So let's talk about our last article.
The last
Full list of Trump-backed candidates who lost their elections. So an added subplot in this year's midterm elections is whether Donald Trump can prove he is still powerful influence on the GOP voters, as hundreds of his endorsed candidates are on the ballots. By the way, did you see him go after DeSantis?
That's a terrible idea.
Did you see him do that?
No, I
He
didn't.
told DeSantis, he said, basically, if you plan to run for the presidential election, I have some stuff that I'll basically leak on you. It was reported by Ground News. I saw it on Instagram and I read it. I just can't remember it word for word. But yeah, so Donald Trump is kind of going after DeSantis right now.
He's scared.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, I mean, if there was someone for him to be scared of, it would be DeSantis.
Yeah, if anybody.
Because he definitely shouldn't be scared of Sleepy Joe.
DeSantis and Gabbard, let's go.
Oh,
I still want that, and I mostly for Gabbard
Talk
just because I
dirty
love
to
her.
me, Dave.
I love Tulsi.
Oh man, that would be such an amazing ticket.
It would be.
That would be America's ticket. Let's be real. That's what they should name it. America's ticket. Ron DeSantis, Tulsi Gabbard, coming together to make the ultimate presidential ticket.
You should do voiceovers on
4
commercials.
years of prosperity.
Score.
4 years of prosperity and freedom.
You should be a campaign manager. The former president has
Don't tempt
backed
me,
more than 300 Republicans across all forms of government in the November 8th elections, including a number of House and Senate candidates who continue to support his false claim of the 2020 election rigged. Trump has frequently pointed to his success in the GOP primaries to prove he has an apparent knack for choosing eventual winners and show that there is still an appetite for his MAGA brand of politics. Amid reports he is due to confirm a 2024 run for a presidency in his upcoming days. So let's go down here. Let's talk about
Scroll on down. Down.
so the Senate right now, 2022 Senate race. Oh no.
Technical difficulties. Please
we go.
bear with us.
The Dems not up for election are 36. Dems to win are 12. Republicans to win were 20, and Republicans not up for election was 29. And then 3 undecided, so there's 50 seats. 2022 House race, 188 Dems, 207 Republicans, and 40 undecided. So interesting there. But here we go for the Trump's losing endorsed Senate candidates. Dr. Oz defeated by Pennsylvania by John Fetterman.
Do you think that Trump's endorsement of Dr. Oz is why he lost?
Now that's an interesting question. I think it could be because, again, are people just voting for the other side because of how much they hate that
Trump.
individual. Yeah, or Trump in general, right? Like, why did Biden win? Because people really just didn't like Trump and how he went about things. Now, again, you want to argue policies, stuff like that, you know, we can argue that all day long.
Till we're blue in the face.
Exactly. But when it comes to personality, individual, all that is unfortunately taken into consideration, which still makes me question
He's
how.
not a nice guy.
Yeah. Still makes me question why we would put a lot of individuals where they are, anyways. But that's besides.
Oh, there's not a whole lot of nice guys or gals in politics.
Yeah,
Let's
good
just be
point.
real.
Good point.
Let's
Yeah,
just
not
be
a
real.
lot of
He
100%
just happened
open
to say
people.
some really crude things on tape.
Yeah, and I mean,
That's show me.
like who hasn't? But
I think Oz too. He's from New Jersey.
is Oz from Jersey?
Yeah, he's not even from Pennsylvania.
Interesting.
Huh.
So
And he has like multiple mansions, and I don't know. The people didn't click with him. I don't think.
Probably
No.
not, especially in a state like Pennsylvania.
Right.
Now, here's the other thing, though. Liz Cheney's from Delaware. And she-
interesting.
And then she's.
But Cheney lost, didn't she?
Well, Cheney did lose. Excuse me. But she was the GOP candidate from Wyoming.
Right.
Like, I think she had a P.O. box there.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
You win something, you lose something.
Yeah. Don Bolduc, Leora Levy, and Gerald Malley. So they lost to Maggie Hassan, Richard Blumenthal, and Peter Welsh. The candidate said he endorsed for the House of Reps that lost. Bo Hines, Steve Chabot, Madison Giselle Gilbert, John Gibbs, Yesley Vega, Caroline Leavitt, J.R. Majewski, Sandy Smith, Robert Burns, Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin ran?
What?
And then Jim Bognet.
You think she can still
She
see
ran,
Russia?
Defeated in Alaska's District 2 by Mary Piosha, huh?
I can see Alaska from my backyard.
They did that ranked choice voting in Alaska.
That's right.
for
They did
the
do that this year,
primary.
didn't they? I
She
forgot
was,
about
she
that.
was in it and she lost.
You win some, you lose some.
So the gubernatorial candidates that lost, that were endorsed by Trump: Tudor Dixon, Doug Mastriano, Lee Zeldin, Dan Cox, Jeff Deal, Tim Mitchells, Darren Bailey, Scott Jensen, Mark Ronchetti, and Derek Schmidt, and then Trump's losing state executive endorsements, Kim Crockett and Christina Camaro. So, I mean, yeah, there is a list of people that he endorsed that lost, and I'm sure there's a list of Hillary or, you know, the Clinton or Obama endorsed people that lost as well. So.
I think that the reason this is getting traction is because he's been on the campaign trail.
he's coming. He's
Talking
coming for
about-
2024.
Oh yeah, and he's also been talking about, because up to this election, his endorsement was like gold.
Right.
I mean, he was like 20 for 21 or something like that up to this election. So I think that's why this has just major headlines, and why some of the other, I guess, famously backed candidates who failed aren't.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of weird.
And then so Manuel comes in. He says yes and no. Fetterman ran a great race before his
Stroke, which is true before the stroke happened, right?
Yeah.
It's just how he's going to bounce back. And then he flipped Republican counties as well. And like Stu said, he's not from Pennsylvania, as in recently moved to Pennsylvania specifically to run 1 year ago.
Which, yeah,
Makes sense why he lost.
yeah.
I mean, where was he originally from?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
No, that's right. You said that. So why not stick with your state? I mean, if you're already around those people and you have that
Would
kind
you
of.
want to represent New Jersey? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, well, I'm born in Jersey.
Oh, that's right.
No, I would not.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Love it.
I think Trump hurts candidates in purple states.
I think you're right.
I'm starting to think so. I'm starting to think so. And especially like when
think
you're
the more
going against
moderate
Ron
states.
DeSantis, like I just
Bro.
don't understand that.
That could be his undoing right there.
Yeah.
Instead of embracing Ronnie D, going against him, because Ronnie D is a superstar in the GOP right now.
Yeah. And now I don't know. This was interesting too. So he won the governor position in Florida. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I know Virginia for a fact is 4-year terms for governor. I don't know about Florida. Is it
They were
different by
chanting
state?
2
Number
more
one.
years.
Okay, was it that?
That's what they were chanting at his acceptance speech last night.
Okay, so then that would make sense as to why, because now we were talking
if I
about
can
this
look it up.
before the episode. Yeah, see if Florida's different. Because we were talking about this before the episode. If DeSantis does decide to run for presidential election, how's that going to interfere with his governor elected position, right?
So-
Like, I don't understand what would happen there. Now, if he only has 2 more terms and he's just campaigning through that, which I mean, that's like 99% of what every candidate or person in politics does, then that makes sense.
You know what's interesting to me about Ron DeSantis is he ran, he won, right?
Yep.
And then what gained him popularity was propping up freedom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, take notes, politicians.
Manuel says each state is different. Go ahead.
If you run on freedom, what do Americans every year at the 4th of July get out their American flags, wrap them around their heads, throw them on their backs, and jump off of high things into water just because, like, I'm talking about the Red Bull flu tag, which is amazing, by the way, if you haven't checked that out. But what do we all rally around on July 4th? Freedom.
Independence.
The ability to choose what you want to do with your life.
Yep.
You think if more candidates ran on the similar platform and actually believed it,
They can make
where
change.
would we be?
Yeah, I think it would make some real change. Whereas right now, what they're doing is just arguing that the other candidate is crap.
Yeah.
Right, and like they're just trying to find dirt on each other.
Nate's wearing a gray sweatshirt.
This is pretty
You
interesting.
should go with a brown sweatshirt.
So Florida is 4-year terms,
Okay.
and term limit is 2 consecutive. I'm seeing states like Texas
Yeah.
says no term limits.
Well, so
And then you got, like Manuel says, for example, in VA, you can't do 2 consecutive terms.
Yeah, it is 1 term. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you can only do 1
But
term.
you
So
can
that's
do
interesting how
unlimited.
each state
You
is
can do
different.
unlimited terms. It just can't be 2 consecutive. Correct?
no, I think you
Or are
only
there
have a
term limits
limit.
on
I
that?
think you only have a limit of 2 terms in Virginia, but you
Oh
can't
my
do it
God,
consecutive.
term
That's
limits?
weird. I know.
For a governor position?
It's like
What about
every
the Senate?
Or the House.
God, why is this everywhere but those 2 places?
Like it makes sense.
You would think.
New York, no term limits. A lot of the New England states have no term limits.
That was our
timer.
That was
y'all.
our timer that
Yeah.
says we know it.
yeah, we are coming up right on an hour, but that's really interesting information. You know, it'll be interesting to see, especially going into 2024, who's going to be put up for the primaries for the Republican and the Democratic side. Now, because even though Biden's in office, they can still bring up somebody else to be in the
Absolutely.
primary,
It
correct?
hasn't happened, I don't believe,
Like-
since like the 1800s.
Yeah, I was going to say ever.
But I do believe the last time it happened. Now, completely, please, guys, come in here and fact check me on this.
Yeah, me
But I
too.
believe the last time it happened was Teddy Roosevelt with the Bull Moose Party.
Oh,
I think that he was sitting president, but he was going for it, and then dropped from whatever party he was affiliated with, and then started the Bull Moose, and then won. But
interesting.
because he wasn't like he didn't win his primary or whatever on his party,
Right.
and he was like, fraud. I'm gonna start this other party called the Bull Moose. Like, bro.
Okay.
I mean, we got a donkey and an elephant in there. Let's talk about a bull moose real quick. That
Yeah,
thing is
right.
a beast. Have you ever seen a moose?
I have. They're huge. They're
terrifying.
like bigger than
They can run
cars.
across water.
What?
You've never seen that video?
No.
Oh my God, you have homework.
I have homework. I'm
Dude,
gonna
there's
watch a moose run
there's
across
moose.
water.
There's a guy in a fishing boat, right? And he's just like out there, he's casting his line, and this moose comes running by, like 35 mile an hour, just trucking across
That's
the water, bro.
insane.
Most terrifying thing I've ever seen. I'm like, how is an animal that large able to move that fast and walk
Over
on
water?
water? Like, is this the Jesus?
Is this Jesus we're talking about?
Is this the Jesus? Like, it's got magnificent horns.
I love it. So yeah, wrapping it all up, bringing it back. Let's some Trump candidates that were endorsed lost. Like I said, I'm sure there were other ones out there, but this one just gains traction because of the 2024 election, which of course we'll keep up with that as we continue our podcast over the years. We want to make sure we stay with everything. So, yeah, this was awesome. This was great. We covered a lot of stuff with the midterm election. I thought we covered a lot of really good information, so that was
And we
good
kept
there.
it in proper times. Like I really like the timer idea.
I do too, because it doesn't get us off on too many rants, but it also allows us to elaborate a little bit on
flex.
Yeah.
If you liked our structure tonight, if you thought that the timers and the pace that we kept tonight was good, please give us some comments, give us some feedback on this. We're always trying to optimize a process. We're always trying to get better. You know us, we don't like to suck. We're trying to be the best that we can be. So
That's right.
Your responses, your feedback is going to help us become the best that we can be.
Constructive criticism.
Absolutely. You come in here and say my mom wears army boots, we might have some words. But outside of that, any and all feedback is amazing. We want to get better. We want to put out a better quality product for you guys, our audience.
Agreed. Yeah. And so, thank you to everybody who came by. Dean says enjoyed the show tonight. It was nice having some different people commenting. Let's make it a regular thing. I agree.
Absolutely.
Would love to see, Matt, Wendy, and Manuel and everybody else jump in here. We used to have Mason jump on the show every once in a while, and a couple of
don't
my
start
old,
name dropping people, bro. They could,
Yeah, I need you all.
Donald Trump is out there.
Jump on this episode.
If Joe Biden is out there, you should come on. The fact is,
So
And
Dean
be the
says
change.
he liked the topic, the timer. He thinks some of the topics might require more discussion, especially if there are several people in the comment section. But the timer is a good thing to keep things flowing. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what we were planning there. But with the more extensive topics, of course, we can just cut into our other ones, and that's kind of the plan. There was like 2 tonight where we got over it in 6-7 minutes, so we could have taken those extra sparingly
Extra time.
8 minutes to go towards something else. So.
well, the other thing is we've also been encroaching onto like JRE territory with some of these hour and a half, hour and 45-minute long
No
episodes. So we just want to make sure that we're optimizing and, like I said, putting out the best quality product that we can.
Yeah, across all platforms: TikTok, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube.
The Royal
Twitch.
Rumble. We are on there, baby.
We are on Rumble, so
on there.
please make sure you all find us on there.
Get on there and let's
It's
rumble.
another platform, of course, that we want to continue to expand on. We're trying to expand on every platform out there. I know Rumble is trying to compete with YouTube, especially since YouTube and Google are very big on their policies and kind of restricting you in some different ways. So, nothing against them, just a way to get past those kinds of policies that people disagree with. So, that's it for tonight's episode. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you all for coming on to the 101st episode of the Fact Is podcast. We had a great night. Got to talk a lot about the midterm. Had a lot of new faces, a lot of new comments, a lot of new people coming in. Thank you all so much. Dean, thank you. You're doing good things as well, so you keep it up.
Thanks, Old Faithful. We appreciate you.
But yeah, so with that being said, thank you all seriously for coming through tonight. The one thing we always ask for everybody to do, we don't ever ask or require any kind of monetization, but the one thing you can do is share us with those that you agree with, but also share us with those that you disagree with, because here the fact is we believe that everybody has more in common than they don't. So it would be great if you all can just share this with everyone and anybody. We encourage everybody to have these political discussions and to talk about this, because it's important and it makes a difference in everybody's lives. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and wrap things up. Stuart, Ryan, you all got anything else to say?
Go ahead, Stu.
I have a question.
Good question. Let's hear it.
Who do you guys think will be the Democrat nominee for president in 2024, and who do you think will be the Republican?
Republican is going to be DeSantis. I'm going with him.
You think Trump starts his own bull moose?
I think Trump tries. Trump is going to run, and whether it's that'd be interesting if Trump went like independent. That'd be very interesting.
I agree with you. I think DeSantis is going to be the Republican nominee.
But I think Trump is going to run possibly as an independent, which would be interesting because
That would be wild.
That would be wild.
Could this be the introduction of a third
of
party?
a third party, right? And then would you feel, would you feel like you need to vote for it to be able to introduce that third party? And then lastly, for the Democratic side, Yang might give it a shot.
He has his own party.
It's going to be Mayor Pete.
Oh, that's right, the Forward Party.
It's going to be Mayor Pete. Pete Buttigieg.
You think?
I promise you.
Okay.
They're already setting him up. They're already starting to talk about him.
Because they don't like Bernie.
No, Bernie's not getting in there.
So
Are
they're
you
either
kidding me?
going
They're
to
cheat to make sure Bernie doesn't get in there.
Exactly.
Which actually I don't think would be a terrible thing for the country. Like don't necessarily let
I
Bernie
agree
in
with
there.
what Manuel said.
What Manny say? Biden and Trump.
I
Trump will
don't think
run
DeSantis will run.
over
I think he'll
DeSantis
just
will
stay
run DeSantis
governor.
over. Trump. So he thinks Trump will run DeSantis over, same way he did everyone running last time. Let's not forget that there were heavy hitters in there. That's a good point.
That's true.
So
But DeSantis was not the rock star that he is now.
yeah. He's
Like,
completely different with the Republican Party than what
heavy
he was.
hitters?
Than what he was.
I mean, who were your heavy hitters? Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio.
Yep.
I mean, Jeb Bush, maybe.
Maybe.
But they didn't have a rock star.
Right.
The rock star was Trump. Now we've got, it's like
Tulsi, DeSantis.
Well, Tulsi's hasn't come over to the GOP yet.
Did
She's
she
still
not
independent,
officially?
right?
I thought she officially did.
Oh, did she?
I could be wrong.
If she
but I thought
did,
she
see
did.
that.
Oh man. Okay, so that could change things. But yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know, man.
I think he's just gonna stay governor.
You think so?
Why wouldn't you?
I mean, another option for this is he goes VP for Trump.
Right. Well, not with the way they're beefing with each other right now. But
Yeah, but you
Happens
squash the
all the
beef
time.
real quick when it comes to the Game of Thrones, bro.
good point. So here's here's what Dean says. Yeah, unfortunately, I agree with Manuel. DeSantis has a lot of power in Florida. I don't know if he give that up to lose to Trump. Rubio, Jeb was definitely he just lacked the personality for the time.
Dude, the only thing I remember about Jeb was him talking about George and being like, "My brother kept the country safe." and Trump goes, "Your brother took us into war and spent billions. Your brother sucked."
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was like, whoa!
I will say, if Trump gets back up on that stage, there's gonna be a lot more laughing. I mean,
Oh, dude.
It's definitely entertaining.
it's definitely.
Oh, dude, he
It's
should
sad
be a
at the same
stand-up
time.
comedian.
It is.
Like if
It
he doesn't,
is.
if the presidency doesn't work out, he should definitely go into stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't need to. He's got all the money in the world.
I know, but think about a Trump stand-up comedy would be amazing. He would just be like looking out in the crowd, like, you got a big nose. You got weird cheeks.
Manuel says in his dad. So dogging on the whole Bush family there. Still feel bad for how Jeb was manhandled in public. Sheesh.
It reminds me of that scene from Game of Thrones when they walk Cersei down like the shame. Like that's how I feel. Like replace Cersei's face with Jeb Bush. Like shame.
That's awesome.
And then who wins the presidency?
Trump.
Oh, if it's Trump Biden, Trump.
Trump is going to end up winning.
I say Biden. Based off today,
I don't know. This is tough.
When it comes to the presidential race, I absolutely think Trump steamrolls Biden the second time.
I think he'll win the popular vote, but it depends on what the electoral college does.
Now, this is the other thing, though. I think what you're seeing right now is people that are voting in local and state level politics. This is a different game. You know what I mean? So when it comes to the presidential election, I just don't. If especially if Biden continues to just drop the ball over the next 2 years,
Right.
I just don't see him getting back in.
We'll see.
His approval rating is through the floor right now.
Yeah, it was like 30% the last time I looked at
Yeah,
it.
I think the last time I checked it out, it was like 33%.
So yeah.
And you got a powerhouse like Trump coming back, and I mean, especially if the GOP takes the House and the Senate, and then we have kind of a gridlock where nothing really gets done, but things still kind of go south just because of maybe bad executive orders or something like that. Yeah, I could definitely see Trump going in there.
So I love
10
what
points.
Dean and Manuel are doing here in the comments. They're talking a little bit about it. So Dean says the U.S. presidential race deserves its own reality TV show. No joke.
Ain't that the truth?
Manuel says Biden will win general. He agrees. And then Dean says there's a lot that could change in 2 years, and Manuel agrees with that as well. Trump is too stuck in the past, and people don't like how his term ended with all that happened. So there is that. But I think now that, you know, people are like heavily on this Biden administration about the economy and, you know, how things have tanked, inflation, gas, you know, food, all these prices going up. I just feel like if things don't change in the next 2 years, I do feel like it is going to go back to the red. It's going to go back to Trump.
Going to be the pendulum.
Yep, it's just going to swing back and forth.
And then somebody somewhere is going to step up as a libertarian and say, "Stop!
Take it over.
We taking over.
I hope
One
so.
election at a time.
I really do hope so.
God, wouldn't it be amazing?
It would be, but
Just having a third party, just a different voice.
Where are the good candidates at?
Tulsi for the right, left is tough to say.
Yeah,
Independent
Manuel, who do you
is-
think is the best out of the Democrat Party?
Yeah, I left is tough to say.
And who do you think's the best out of the Republican?
The Republican Party, I'm gonna go with probably Tulsi and DeSantis.
Tulsi's not in the Republican
I
Party.
think I'm pretty sure she's gonna get there.
If Tulsi goes independent, we could actually have a independent party come into power.
I believe
Which
that.
would, I mean, I think Tulsi has
She's
that
a
kind
very
of following,
powerful woman.
and she's a very popular woman.
Tulsi 2024. Thank you, Olivia. Manuel does say sure, but the threat of what Trump supported doesn't go away unless he makes it go away, and he won't. And that's an interesting take too, right? Now, granted, unless he campaigns completely different. You know, he could come out and campaign
They
completely
have
different.
so many
than what he
videos
used
to show of him, though.
Right,
Yeah,
but I
but-
mean, yeah, how many videos do you show of Biden and the things
Oh,
that
yeah.
he said? You know, like,
Oh my God! Could you imagine the highlight reel he's gonna play in his campaign trails?
I mean, seriously.
What kind of ice cream do you eat? Chocolate chip. What's going on with the pipeline? No more drawing! Even though I'm telling everybody else that they're supposed to be. Oh man, I messed that one up.
Calling for a dead. What's her name?
Rachel!
Passed away. Yeah, Rachel.
Rachel!
Rachel, I know you're here.
Are you out there?
Yeah,
Are you out there? Oh,
So-
you're dead.
So it's pretty. I mean, there is so much that they can dog on each other for, right? Like, yeah, don't get me wrong. Trump is not innocent either. You could dog on him for plenty of things, but same with Biden. So it's a 50-50.
All I can say is in 2024, buy some stock in Orville Redenbacher because we're all about to get our popcorn out, boys. It's about to be a show.
A show.
A show.
Oh man, beautiful. Well,
All right, close this down.
Yeah,
man.
we
We got
got
another 15 minutes. What am I supposed to do?
We ran
Gosh,
over.
guys, why are you engaging so much?
Yeah, your awesome question and all the engagement got
Stuart's
us
like,
going.
This conversation's never gonna die.
But,
Another question.
Yeah, you wish.
any wrapped up thoughts for you there, Ryan? Anything else?
No.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you all again. Thank you to everybody who joined in. Olivia, thank you for jumping in last minute talking about Tulsi 2024 because who doesn't love that? And Manuel, if you want to comment after the fact on who you think are the best Democratic candidates, I would love to hear because I honestly don't know. I haven't, like I know again for the right side, it's a little basically who the superstar is now, DeSantis, but
And that's just because he's iconic right now.
Maybe Bloomberg will try to come back. Who knows?
Oh God, I hope not.
I hope not too. But
Do you remember that like 3-month stretch when all you saw was Bloomberg ads?
yeah.
He like dropped $500 million.
Dude,
in, like,
that's so
3
much
months.
money.
He's like, yeah, I'm a billionaire. Like, what's $500 million? I'm just gonna spend it on ads. We're gonna
Why
win.
not?
Like, wait, what?
But
Bro.
But with all that being said, thank you all for coming to the 101st episode of the Fact Is Podcast. We will see you all next week for 102.
102.
And we were your host, Nate Moses.
And I'm Ryan Mays.
And it was a great time with you all tonight. Stuart, thank you for everything you do as well. Thank you for contributing. And to everybody in the comments, we will see you all next week. Thank you so much.